Welcome back to another Warframe video. So today I want to talk about AOE weapons. So the community has been talking about this for a while now, and I want to give my thoughts and opinions on what I think is going to happen. There has been talks about DE making some type of changes to AOE weapons. We don't know when, and we don't know what kind of changes are going to be coming. So today I'm going to take the time to go through some changes that I think might be coming, and I'm going to talk about the changes that I would like to see, and I'm going to talk about the changes that I would absolutely hate. Before I get into that, I want to say I understand where DE is coming from. AOE right now in the game is overshadowing a lot of stuff, like a lot of good stuff that's not being used at all, just because AOE simply exists. Don't get me wrong though, I don't want to see AOEs get nerfed. My favorite weapon in the game right now is actually an AOE. Okay, so the first thing I say when people ask me what do I think is going to get nerfed on AOE, the first thing I say is line of sight. Line of sight is going to get nerfed, and this was far back before all this actually started. I always did say line of sight might be getting nerfed on AOEs, and the time that it really hit me was whenever DE nerfed Cora's Rip Claw, when they added line of sight check to Cora's Rip Claw explosion. As soon as I seen that, in my mind I was like, okay, so AOEs are next, right? It took a long time, but I think we're starting to get there, maybe. And I would be comfortable with this type of nerf if that's all it is. The next thing they could do is reduce the ammo and magazine capacity of AOE weapons. I mean, they already did this to the Kubu Brammer, but they could decide and say, we want to do this to all AOE weapons. They could also say, oh, you know what, the primary merciless has a bonus that applies, I think it's 100% extra ammo to any weapon that has it equipped. So they could decide and say, okay, that extra bonus 100% ammo is not going to apply to AOE weapons anymore. I think that would really be a bad change for AOE weapons. That I would hate. Like I would not like that at all. The next thing I could see DE changing about AOEs is the base range. I can really see DE changing the base range of all AOEs back to 5 meters. So no more 8 meters of range, no more 10 meters, no more 12 meters, none of that. All AOE maximum range would be 5 meters. And also Firestorm and Primed Firestorm will get changed as well. So instead of them being percentage based, they would have a fixed value. So Firestorm could have, let's say, 0.9 meters extra range at maximum value, and Prime Firestorm would have about 1.8 meters at maximum value. So all in all, if you were using Prime Firestorm on an explosive weapon with 5 meters of range, you would be getting about 6.8 meters of range, almost 7 meters. I think I would be okay with that kind of change. Like, that would kind of be fine. The next kind of change that I'm speculating here is one that I am not okay with. So this can actually come in two ways. So the first one is, each time you get tagged by your explosions, you will lose 10% of your maximum modded health. So you can blow up yourself up to 10 times before you're down to 2 health. So you're not going to die right away, but after 10 times you will be at 2 health. The second way I can see this playing out is they can change how knockback resistance mod interacts with self damage. So if you get tagged by your own explosion while you're running prime sure-footed, power drifts, I think the last one is fortitude. So if you get tagged by your own explosion while you're running these mods, you would have a cooldown on how many times you can resist knockback. So assuming you're running prime sure-footed, right, and you tag yourself with your own explosion, you can do that up to 5 times, maybe. This is just speculation, keep that in mind. You can do that, you can tag yourself up to 5 times, and then it would go into a 5 to 10 second timer. So once that timer is counting, any knockbacks would actually affect you. So it would prevent you from spamming your AOE weapon too much. So I guess that's a way they could go about it, but I don't think that's going to be fun at all. So it's basically going to work like the way Rolling Guard works right now. having a cooldown. The other thing that I've always talked about whenever the topic of nerfing AOE comes up is how that's gonna affect certain warframes. So you see, some warframes have KPS abilities, DPS abilities, and scaling damage. Mind you, I'm talking about just one frame. Like some frames have all three. The likes of Siren and Octavia, they both have DPS abilities if they want to concentrate and kill one target really hard. They also have a group killing ability for KPS. Like they can buff themselves and they can also kill groups of enemies, as well as they can also scale into the later waves. And this is, we're talking about just one frame here, right? Zaku also does that too. If you mod for range, you can use his 2 to kill a bunch of enemies if you move around a lot. And he can buff himself like for DPS with his 1. And his 2 does scale as well. And you can also use his armor strip to scale as well. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like some frames have KPS, DPS, and scaling damage. On the other hand, some frames have, did you hear that? Nothing. They just have support. Like when it comes to killing anything in a squad composition, you wouldn't want to play those frames. I mean, they provide good support, but if AOE gets nerfed and we can no longer use AOE for those frames who don't have all this buffing damage, it's gonna hurt the usability of some frames. That's my concern about nerfing AOE. I mean, nerfing AOE to the point where you don't want to use it on frames without any, let's say, buffing type of things, right? Frames with only buffing abilities like Rhino, Chroma, and Mirage are gonna go back to being used for boss fights only, like Profit Taker only, Eidolon only, that kind of stuff. We're gonna go back to that era. We were already out of it. But if AOE gets nerfed so bad, then we're gonna go back to the dark ages, right? It's not like I'm against nerfing AOE, but I don't want it to be done in such a way where we can't even stand using it, and it makes all these great frames that we've become so used to, it now makes them bad. Like, I don't want that. I want a situation where I can pick up Inaros, I can pick up Valkyria, I can pick up Loki, Trinity, all these great frames, like great support frames. I want to be able to play them and still be relevant, still do some damage. Like, we don't want a situation where you're in a squad and they're feeling like they don't need you just because all you do is heal or give them crit chance, which they're thinking maybe they don't need. But if you have access to this good weaponry that's still good enough to use, then you can still support your frame when they don't need any of your support, right? They don't need your support, they don't need your healing, they don't need your crit chance. You can support them with more damage, right? So that's what I'm looking for here. We are just going to have to wait and see how DE balances the game, how they are going to balance AOE, and how the balancing of AOE is going to affect certain frames in the game. Remember, this is all just speculation. If you enjoyed the video and you liked the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.